Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wish We Were Then. This is the show that's been doomed to repeat history so that you may learn from it. What that means is that me and my friend Mark go back in time every week to a different year in the past and discuss it. That's what we do. We talk about all of the news and the foods and all the good stuff. So stick around if you like nostalgia. And if you don't, you might just learn something. Maybe you find out you do like nostalgia when you listen to our show. My name is Trey, by the way, and I'm joined with the aforementioned Mark. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. This is going to be a cool year. A lot of pop culture stuff going on. A lot of exciting things. I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah. I mean, this is coming from a decade that we've spoken at length on this show about how the 1960s were one of the most tumultuous times in our nation's history. And the year we're about to look at is really one in which a lot of those things are really ratcheting up. America's involvement in the conflicts in Vietnam is really ramping up. The racial tensions within our own borders are coming to a head. But the biggest danger, the biggest threat to the American way of life as we know it would actually come from a little country called Great Britain. There was an invasion of sorts that happened this year that really altered the course of history. A certain mania would overtake the youth of this country this year. I'm speaking, of course, of Beatle Mania. Everyone wanted to be like that lovable Cockney chimney sweep from America's #1 movie, Mary Poppins. Beatle Mania took over the young people of this country with the song and dance and those beautiful British accents. Young people screaming their heads off at Chim Chimney Chim Chee Cheree and covering their faces in soot to look like their British hero, Bert, who would do more than any other Englishman to change the course of American history in the year 1964.
I got to say, before we get into it too much, I love that character. He's a great character.
He's much maligned, the accent. People have given him a lot of shit for it, but I go back and forth. Sometimes I'm like, he doesn't sound that bad, and then other times like he also doesn't sound like a human, really. Kind of, it's like a weird. Nobody talks like that. Of course, I was being a little cheeky there. This is, if you didn't know, 1964 is the year that the British invasion and Beatle Mania would kick off and really take the country by storm. So but the Beatles and Walt Disney were kind of in charge of 1964 for all intents and purposes here. Like every news story was like, oh man, another thing connected back over there. Just to say a quick little thing about Disney, just to kick it off, was It's a Small World. We've mentioned when it came to Disneyland, but this was the year it was at the World's Fair.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That it was built there first. In New York, moved to Disneyland in 1966. The song was written by the Sherman Brothers, who we will bring up again later in the show. They had a lot of big songs for them this year.
We'll bring up the World's Fair later as well.
Well, that song, before I get too deep into the World's Fair, that song is played 1,200 times per day on that ride.
That's ridiculous.
It's a lot, man. If you imagine, just going through it once, you're like, I'm done. If you work there or something like that, God, that must be torture. Also at the World's Fair were a couple other Disney attractions that I didn't know started at the World's Fair either. I didn't know that about It's a Small World until we did 1966. But this same year, they would also debut the Carousel of Progress, which is like the big rotating building.
Mm-hmm.
In Disneyland, it got replaced by America Sings in 1974, which went till 1988. And then it was just empty for 10 years. I didn't know that about it. It was just there was nothing there. And in 1998, they finally put Interventions into it, which is what's there today at Disneyland. It has been at the Magic Kingdom, though. They created it there in 1975, which makes it the longest running stage show in American history.
Damn.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And then the last thing that they debuted at the World's Fair this year was Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, which would also move to Disneyland in 1966 along with It's a Small World. That's a pretty cool show. Have you seen that?
No. Mm-mm.
Where you go into the hall and it's pretty neat. They update it all the time to make it more technologically advanced. But it's his animatronics are incredible. He stands up out of a chair and gives his Gettysburg Address. But in the beginning of it, you're playing your role as a soldier, and you wear headphones in the theater, and your first thing is like, you're like, oh, well, you're getting ready to go off and enlist or whatever. We got to give you a haircut. And then the barber's talking to you. And as he's cutting your hair, you can feel like little kind of like the
Like
noises
air
of it
mist,
just make, yeah, it just makes it feel like you're getting your haircut. It's like, pretty cool though.
So the Great Society was implemented by Lyndon Baines Johnson. And this year he presented it a few times, like in talks at colleges and things like that. But when it was actually implemented, his goal over all of this was to eliminate poverty. Was his goal.
So that's why we don't have poverty now. Wow, good job, LBJ.
Yeah, he did a great job. We all love him and praise him. No, he created Job Corps, which is like the vocational training for young adults, Head Start programs for low-income children getting early education, Vista, which is a volunteer in service in America, which is like a Peace Corps, but for the United States. Upward Bound, which is a college preparation for disadvantaged students, and legal services and health centers, expanding access and healthcare for and justice for all is what we wanted to do.
I was gonna say all too when you said and justice for. I was gonna say all, justice for all.
There's a lot of arguments that go against this, but this was the beginning of the Great Society.
That's interesting. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know that I'm familiar with that term, the Great Society.
That's why it's kind of like a blanket, like help everybody kind of thing. That's why there's so many like different implications for it. Literally, he wanted to change society.
I like the sentiment behind it, I guess.
Yeah. Just the pros and cons of all of this stuff. Yeah, it's hard as an elected official just be like, I think my plan is best for everybody.
Make society great again.
Yeah.
Massa. It'll be Masca. All right, here's my other news story. I got a little fun thing. I always like to look up stuff like this. October 29th in New York, again, keeping things New York centered this year for the World's Fair, all this shit. At the American Museum of Natural History, in the J.P. Morgan Hall of Gems and Minerals, sat a very, very expensive collection of gems that were notably uninsured. And also, guess where this is going? They're very under-secured as well. A group of Miami surfers, a bunch of surf bum dudes from Miami, 3 of these guys. Alan Kuhn, he was only 26. Jack Murphy was 27. And Roger Clark were 29. So a bunch of young dudes. They're kind of thrill seekers, really. Point Break kind of deal is what this was. The Alan and Murphy, whose name, by the way, is Murph the Surf, which is pretty fucking funny too.
That's
Murph
fucking
the Surf was
awesome.
like the leader of the group. They broke in. Roger Clark drove the getaway van. They hopped the fence. They went up a fire escape, and then tied a rope to a pillar and swung across to an open window.
Oh shit!
And then got into the mineral hall. They used glass cutters and duct tape, like real cool, like fucking sophisticated spy stuff.
Oh shit!
Yeah, they were kind of like, sort of knew what they were doing for being a bunch of fucking surf bums, dude. But they stole 24 gems. Among them was the Star of India, which was the largest sapphire in the world at 563.35 carats.
Holy shit!
I was not aware carats went up that high.
God damn.
There was the 100 carat DeLong Star Ruby, which was considered the most perfect ruby in the world. And the Midnight Star, which at 116 carats was the largest black sapphire. So just incredibly rare gems that were, again, not insured and very not well guarded or anything. The entire haul at the time was estimated at $410,000, which in today's money would be about $4.4 million.
Yeah.
The batteries and all of the display cases for the security had been dead for months. They found out, like when they were interviewing people who worked at the museum, like, yeah, we didn't change this shit out a few months ago because nobody steals anything here. It only takes once.
Jeez. Yeah.
All of the windows in the gem hall were left 2 inches open at the top, all of them for ventilation during the night. Don't want those gems to get hot, I guess.
What the fuck?
Yeah, no one's in there. Why are you ventilating, you fucking idiots? Leave that shit open during the day. They were caught by a plainclothes officer who was invited to one of the lavish parties they started throwing in their hotel after they successfully stole all the gems. They were just like, hey, everybody, come on in and party. And one of them was this guy who was undercover, and he went and told the cops, like, go check that room. So they ended up going in with a warrant and finding a bunch of weed. They found a floor plan for the museum, and they found a book about gems. And they're like, this is all highly suspicious. And then while they're in there poking around, Roger Clark came back in and was like, oh, fuck. And he just like immediately sang like a canary. They were like, what are you doing here? He's like, we're stealing gems. And they're like, where are the other guys? They're like, they're in Miami. He just immediately told them everything that happened. But for some reason, the judge like didn't think there was a strong case against them, and he set their bail super low. So they all made bail and then just took off. When they were leaving the jail, Murph the Surf said, I was supposed to be on my way to Hawaii to surf. Now all this inconvenience has fouled things up. This guy was like their little spokesperson. Then later on, the way that they actually caught these guys was back in January of 1964, actress Ava Gabor would be robbed at gunpoint. She got tied. She and her husband were tied up, and they like pistol whipped her and stole all of her jewels. They stole a $25,000 ring from her. And after that, she vowed to never wear real jewelry again for the rest of her life. And I mean, that was her thing, was that she was like this, socialite, fancy lady with all of her cool jewels and stuff. So they pinned that crime on them. So their bill was set way higher for this than for the jewel heist to have this massive proportion, because the Ava Gabor thing really, heightened its public profile. So then they decided to work with the cops. They're like, listen, we'll trade some level of amnesty for the jewels. We'll help you get all the jewels back. So then they took Kuhn to Miami, and he like led them all around. They like stayed at a bunch of different hotels. He was just making calls to all of his fences and stuff like that. And they ended up tracking down the jewels. And then all three of them got sentenced to 3 years apiece. They also never found the Eagle diamond, was one of the jewels that they never obtained, which they're pretty sure they chopped it up and sold it in smaller pieces. So, I mean, we've talked before about what these sorts of these things where we're like, oh well, I mean, you only get 3 years, and it's like you don't get to keep the money. This case, they probably did get some of the money, and there also were like a litany of smaller jewels. Like those were they recovered the big, brand name ones, but Eagle Diamond never got recovered. And they also just had like they used a squeegee actually, and just like went in there and fucking and squeegeed in all of the stuff into a bag. So they just had like a bag full of jewels. They sold all of them except for the big heavy ones because those were harder to figure out how to get rid of. So, and I think they did sell those too. They just recovered them. So they did walk away with some money and only spent 3 years in jail.
Damn.
Yeah, so not a bad trade-off. Now, I do want to point out that Murph the Surf, despite having a really cool name, was kind of a piece of shit. He did get convicted of murder in 1969. He killed 2 accomplices of his in a securities theft. So he just like became a career criminal after this and just kept stealing shit. He couldn't put down the thrill. He's like, this is so much more of a thrill than surfing.
That's the craziest part about people who do these heists. It's like not only do you have to do it, but you have to find somebody to sell it to.
Yeah, I know. That's what keeps me from doing it.
And then never get caught. Like you have to leave the country immediately. All these people just like hang out.
But,
like I get your fence was in Miami, but then you could have just gone to Cuba or something.
Like that's where you're from, bro. That's where they would have expected you to be, is where you live,
Right? Yeah.
And that's where the Ava Gabor thing took place, was in Miami. So that's how they were able to pin it on. Like, well, we know you guys are suspected jewel thieves. You were in Miami when this occurred. So there's actually no telling whether or not they did do the Ava Gabor robbery, because she refused to testify. So I don't know if she just was like, I'm over, I don't want to deal with this anymore, or who knows, maybe Murph the Surf. I told you, he's an unsavory character. Maybe he got to her. I don't know. All right, let's move into the food here with, the amount of money that was like, oh, it was $400,000, but now it's like $4 million. So there was a candy bar that came out in 1964 that the amount of money is funny that now how drastically different it is. The 100 grand bar came out. It was known fully, like the name of it was the $100,000 candy bar.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but that would be $1 million today. So even 100 grand, you're like, that's an expensive thing. But you're like, that's if they renamed it now, it would be the $1 million candy bar.
The $1 million bar, I like that.
I like 100 gram bars. That's actually one of my favorite candies. It's kind of one of those ones that like it's you don't think about it too often. And then when you have one, you're like, oh, these are so great. You get them at Halloween.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I
Yeah, I like
frequently
them.
buy the large ones.
I
Yeah, I know. My
never
wife
do.
loves them.
I'm a Halloween kind of guy for those ones. I never go out of my way to buy them.
There was like a rash of time where I'd go and be like, I'm tired of fucking having Butterfingers and Reese's. I want something different, So I'd get just like whatever weird shit that's on the thing that you just look past.
Or the Mr. Gold Bar. Is that what it's called?
Oh, Mr. Good Bar. Yeah, it's just like peanuts and chocolate, right? That one's okay.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
another one from a Halloween thing. Yeah, it's funny
Yeah.
that it is like 100 gram bars, Mr. Good bars, maybe what's the other one? Crackle. That's another one that's always in
Oh,
those.
yeah. Mhm.
I've never seen a full size Crackle in my entire life.
Yeah, I don't know. I got a food thing. So April 22nd was the World's Fair.
Mhm.
This would be the first time that there was Thai food restaurant and Belgian waffles served in America.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, thank God for Thai food, man. It's amazing.
I really don't eat too much Thai food. I've had it a few times.
Their
There's a lot of curry,
great.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Belgian waffles, I don't. They're kind of one of those things. Like when I get one, I'm like, a Belgian waffle. But like if I don't, like right now that it's not sitting in front of me, I can't really. I don't. What distinguishes it from one of ours? A
The way it's
patriotic
cooked,
waffle,
maybe.
Good breakfast food though.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. There are a couple other good breakfast foods that came out this year. Were first off, Lucky Charms would debut in '64.
Okay.
That was my favorite cereal as a kid.
I never liked the little marshmallows, man.
No, I mean they're one of those things that really are like when you get it in your head. Even as a kid, I'd be like, "Oh, the texture of them." And like, they don't taste that good. But like you have a whole bunch of them, it's good. But I would sometimes just like eat the marshmallows, like wait and save them all for the end.
Yeah.
And then you take a big spoonful of it, and you're like, "Oh, mistake." General Mills challenged their product developers to use existing manufacturing from their plants from either Cheerios or Wheaties. So a guy named John Holohan took some Cheerios and mixed them with circus peanuts, those nasty candies from Crocs.
Gross. What the frick?
So if you want to like the marshmallows in Lucky Charms any less than you currently do, just know they're based on those nasty ass circus peanuts. Another thing that I liked a lot as a kid, I loved those circus peanuts. And somebody at one point was like, "You like those?" And I took a bite of one. And I was like, "Oh no, not anymore." You just made me realize these were bad. I mean, as a child, I'd eat like paper and shit, so I guess I didn't have a great palate until somebody pointed out you shouldn't eat that. And I was like,
I think we talked about how much cat food you ate not too long ago.
That is a joke. It was dog food, but I have eaten a fair share of like dog treats just to see if they're good. Like, my dog loves this shit.
Like they smell pretty good.
Yeah, bacon strips don't
shit. Like
they don't taste like they smell at all. I'm surprised dogs like them. They're fools. Those dogs, easily tricked. Lucky Charms were unfrosted, actually, like the individual pieces. They were just like Cheerio style with the marshmallows in there until 1967. And that's when they started to take off.
Okay.
Yeah, the marshmallows weren't enough. It was like, God damn, these kids, those nasty styrofoam marshmallows aren't doing it for you? All right, I'll put some more sugar in there.
All right. And then another breakfast thing that happened this year. February 16th, the Post Breakfast Company came out with a treat called the Country Squares. It was a non-refrigerated fruit-filled pastry, but it was only a press release. It was never like a rollout. It never actually hit shelves. They were still in the testing of the product.
What a weird idea to be like, we have an idea for something. It's like, keep that shit to yourself.
Yeah. But Kellogg's was paying close attention to these press conferences, apparently. Then go on later to say that they already had one of these in the works. But they would release a similar product on September 14th called Pop-Tarts.
Mm-hmm.
It was a play on words of pop art.
Yeah, that's so cool because pop art was like so popular in the 60s. But like that, at the time, that probably would have registered because people talked about pop art. But I never once in my life made that connection.
No, I didn't. Not until I read that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
But they also are pop up.
Yeah, they pop out of a toaster.
But they're not that tart. So yeah, it kind of is something where you're like, what is the tart part? It's like they're not a tort.
I don't know. What's a tort? What?
A tort is a little type of cake in like England.
Oh, really? I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never been to England. I don't know. You're more cultured than I am, Trey.
You've been like all over Europe. I guess like when they came out, they were incredibly popular right off the bat. I mean, everyone was like, "Yeah, we were all excited about Country Squares, and they didn't come out with them." So they're like, "We're excited, we're ready for them." So they ran ads apologizing for the lack of Pop Tarts because they sold out in the first 2 weeks. So they sent out ads being like, "We're sorry, the shelves are empty," and everyone was like, "What the fuck's going on? I want more Pop Tarts." It drummed up the Pop Tart mania. A lot of manias going on this year. The first batch of flavors they had were strawberry, blueberry, brown sugar, cinnamon, and apple currant. Apple's the only one that didn't really stick around. I mean, they do make apple Pop Tarts now, but it wasn't like one of the classic ones. I don't think,
Yeah.
Best ones to me are cherry though. I love the cherry Pop Tarts. Is that what they're? The ones with like the pink frosting and the little red sprinkles. Love those.
I don't think I've ever had the cherry ones.
Oh,
those are
definitely
had the
my
strawberry. I like the brown sugar ones.
Those also are pretty good.
Yeah, I've had other ones. Like I don't like the s'mores ones. I didn't like.
No, there's some wacky flavors. Yeah,
yeah.
And I've mentioned many times I'm not like much of a sweets person, but my other favorite Pop Tarts flavor are the hot fudge sundae ones, which are like wild.
I don't think I've ever had that one.
They're chocolate Pop Tart bread with like white cream filling, so it's like just like creamier than a Pop Tart, sort of like Pillsbury cream for the tops of toaster strudels, and then it's iced with white, and then like a chocolate swirl on it, and then like sprinkles. It's just all the sweet shit all in one. I love those frozen. They're great. These also were unfrosted.
Did you say you love it frozen?
Yeah, they're really good frozen.
Interesting.
That particular flavor just is like delicious out of the freezer.
It's like ice cream in the middle with the.
Yeah, it kind of becomes almost like an ice cream sandwich. These also, much like Lucky Charms, would remain unfrosted until 1967. Something about the frosting technology wasn't there yet. They had to wait a couple of years to
I don't think I would like a Pop-Tart if it wasn't frosted.
I've had the unfrosted strawberry ones because they still make those. That's like the only one I've seen unfrosted, and they're like the most disappointing thing in the world.
Yeah,
so bad.
I mean, I guess if you were eating just like regular Kellogg's like brand cereal,
yeah,
this would be like something that's like a nice treat.
Yeah,
but us, we had like toaster strudels and shit. I was like, I don't want a Pop-Tart. Give me spend a lot more money on the toaster strudels because they're worth it.
Oh, unfrosted Pop-Tart. Oh, throw that shit away, Mom. What did you do?
You made a mistake, clearly.
Well, that's a bunch of stuff for the kids, Pop-Tarts and Lucky Charms. For adults, you had two beverages that came out. One, to combat all the sugar that the kids were eating, Diet Pepsi would come out this year.
Okay.
Which was kind of the first like major diet soda. We talked about Tab had come out prior to this, so that was like the first time like a big company had made diet soda of some sort. No, that was the second time because Diet Right had come out before that. So technically, this is like the third diet soda, but this was like the biggest national brand to do so because Tab was sort of like a non-Coke shoot-off, And then also this year you would have the debut of Old English 800.
Oh shit.
Yeah, the OE.
Another malt liquor, huh?
Yeah. I know. Yeah, it was funny to see how often these malt liquors, because all the beers came out 100 years ago, and then in the 60s and shit, they were like, we'll figure out how to malt liquor, make some 40s. And they were actually one of the first brands to start putting them in the 40 bottles.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. I just thought of when Bobby Hill drinks beer for the first time, and he gets a 40, and he's like, normally I drink the 30 ounces. But it's the weekend. That's all I got for food. Shall we go to tech?
Yeah. Let's go on to tech.
This is another connection to both Disneyland and the World's Fair that came out in the tech world. And one of these things that's just very shocking that it debuted so long ago and then didn't maintain any sort of relevancy was Bell Labs, famous for their telephone stuff and things like that. They unveiled the picture phone at the New York World's Fair this year, which was just like it sounds. You had a little 5x5 screen in there, and it would film you, and you could have a fucking video conversation with somebody on the other end. The people at the World's Fair were making calls to Disneyland in California. So the guests in Disneyland had the other phone, and yeah, you would just sit there and have a fucking conversation with some stranger across the country.
That's crazy.
Isn't it? That's so weird that this was a real thing.
How?
No idea. Yeah, just
It had to
pictured
be
like
like some kind of like internet cable, like or some kind of telephone cable.
it was. People described this as being a precursor to the internet, and we could have had the internet in the '60s if this had gone through.
Damn.
Because it just didn't. They didn't have. It was really expensive. That was the big thing, that they just didn't have the ability to keep up with developing this technology. The service, because this was something you could get for like a business or home, I suppose. Nobody really did that, but if it was a business, it was $160 per month, and the picture booths themselves were $20 a minute to make these
Damn.
calls. In today's money, that would be $1,700 per month for the service if you were a business, and to call from those picture booths was $215 in today's money.
Jeez.
So some rich ass people at the World's Fair and Disneyland, I guess.
They probably weren't charging people for this. They're probably just showcasing it.
At the World's Fair, probably.
Yeah.
But then they set up picture booths throughout major cities in the U.S.
Oh,
So this was something they did implement. Yeah, they were like phone booths, but just with fucking video calls. But the thing was, you had to be calling another picture booth or one of the people who was subscribed to the service already. And within the first 6 months of this technology, only 71 customers used the picture booths. Just impractical. There was no way to really set this up. I mean, people like barely had TVs at this point, so just expecting people to somehow jump on with this wildly expensive technology. They sunk $500 million into this over the course of the next few years and ended it in 1978. So it didn't last for a really long time. They just were like, we can't keep up with this. And $500 million back then, all the conversions we've been talking about, you can just imagine how much that is now.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, really, really cool. Again, shocking piece of technology to be like, what the fuck? They were doing that back then? Star Trek shit?
Right? Well, no, it makes me think like, Star Trek's not as they're at the World's Fair. They're not as inventive as I thought they were.
Yeah. I just pictured, though, when you're like, how did they do that? I was like, just some guy on the other side of the picture booth is like on a fake backdrop, and they're like, turn on the screen, and it's just him on the other side. He's like, how's it going? I'm here in Disneyland. I'm visiting from Germany. It's so nice here. It's a small world, huh? And they're like, that's here. What the fuck? It's not here yet. I just read a report. It's going to be here in 1966. Excited.
And puts on a wig. Hi.
Hey there. I'm here in Disneyland. Excited for It's a Small World. Like, why is everyone talking about that? Can't wait for great moments with Mr. Lincoln. All right, let's see. Now, I do have a little piece of video game information as well.
Okay.
Yeah, it's always cool to see these old school ones. This was called the Sumerian game. It was designed by a 4th grade teacher named Mabel Addis. So she wanted to teach her class. First of all, that just made me think like, man, our education system's fucked. They were learning about Sumer in the 4th grade,
right?
I think we learned about ancient civilizations in 6th grade.
Yeah, in 6th grade.
Yeah, so they're 2 years ahead of us now. So we're a bunch of dummies
I think it's like the Wild West we were learning about in 4th grade.
Yeah, I mean, that's Pony Express and stuff. You spend a long time learning about the Pony Express, and then you get older, and you're like, that shit operated for like 4 months.
That's all. They also don't have to. They have like their own history.
We learned about this. I guess they had to be like, we got to put a whole new fucking page in the textbook about the 60s. And in the 60s, they're like, oh, well, what else has happened? I don't know. Fuck the Cowboys and ancient Sumer. That's pretty much it. You know? The game takes place in 3500 BC, and it's like 3 separate rulers that you kind of take the persona of, essentially, and you're assigning resources is what the game is. It was a largely text-based thing. Especially they did 2 iterations of it, once in 64, and then they would rejigger it a little bit and come out with it in 1967 or something like that, or 68, and add some more like visual elements and things. But in this year, it was mostly just text-based. You would like have a set amount of grain, and you had to decide how much of that goes to food, how much is going to be planted, and how much is going into storage. Just like the stuff we learned about in 6th grade, Like that's how they made civilization, was storing grain and be like, we could hold on to this pretty much. So that was it. And then there would be like random natural disasters that would occur that would affect your grain levels and shit like that. And then, you just made through 3 different rulers, and your past decisions came into account. So, you didn't store enough grain. All your people died or whatever,
That's cool. It's like the Oregon Trail.
Yes. But it was also like played with the entire class. So like
That's
all
cool.
30 kids would get on and be like, we're going to do this, It's like,
Yeah, like a collective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but pretty super early precursor to like a lot of these. games. And actually, the second iteration of it would have like some visual elements to it and a narrative element as well. And a lot of people say this is the first game to include a narrative to it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so pretty cool. That came from a fourth grade teacher. There was
That's
that other
crazy.
teacher who wrote those funny songs. Remember?
Oh yeah,
Like
he wrote a
60s.
bunch of songs.
Yeah, the '60s teachers really cared about their kids.
What happened? The Great Society. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, they just stayed the same teachers, and they were too old to keep caring.
Yeah, right.
But that's it for that. Let's move into the toy section. If you got some stuff.
Yeah, I got one. On February 1st, G.I. Joe was released.
Gordon Ignatius
see.
Joe. That's what it's short for.
Yes,
Most people don't know
exactly.
that.
This was pretty much trying to get boys to play with dolls. Essentially, to have like a boy version of them, but they didn't want to call them dolls, so they coined the name action figure.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. That's like just some simple marketing, and it stayed around for forever.
Yeah, I played with G.I. Joes.
Yeah, but just even the idea of action figures, like that would just mean anything. Basically, any toy a boy plays with just became an action figure.
Yeah, like all of the Star Wars little mini ones that would come out later and stuff. Those are all action figures.
That's kind of the funny thing too that I was thinking of. Like the original GI Joes were just basically Barbies because they were 12 inches tall and were all posable and shit. And then they came out with the smaller ones in like the 80s, and then that also was an action figure. You're like, this is certainly a toy. We could just call this a toy man instead of it being an action figure if that was an action. But it's just any man-shaped object a kid plays with is a boy plays with is an action figure.
Yeah,
according to this naming convention.
Yep. But yeah, like you said, just the marketing, it did them well.
Yeah, they knew boys wouldn't play with dolls, and also a big thing was that they knew parents wouldn't buy their boys dolls.
Yeah.
Like they also were like, my kid's not gonna play with dolls. Like it's an action figure. Oh, you say, action. That's suitable for my little strong, strapping young man.
He's gonna go to war real soon, so
it's true. You gotta get him ready. You gotta show him how to hold a gun. They were based on like a wooden artist's mannequin. You know those like posable things that you. Yeah, that's what it was actually based on. So that's why it has so many points of articulation and shit like that.
That's cool.
And like their slogan, I guess it's still on the boxes of the bigger ones, is America's movable fighting man. Like that's a very fucking straightforward thing to say. It's a weird way to word it. America's movable fighting man,
or action figure, which is a way better.
Action figure, yeah, conveys what you just said, but in a much cooler way. Another toy that would come out this year that were also movable fighting men, essentially, were Rock'em Sock'em robots.
Dude, yes, those are the moving fighting men.
They actually were originally humans. It was going to be boxers.
That makes sense.
But then Davy Moore was a boxer who died in the ring in 1963. And they're like, we're going to go ahead and clean this up a little bit and make it not remind everyone of this recent tragedy. So they made him robots.
His head popped off?
Like, damn, this is really going to upset kids when they remember Davy.
Sorry, Davy.
Also, another toy that came out this year was the Thing Maker, also known as the Creepy Crawler Machine.
I've never seen these before. I have to look one up and see what it looks like.
That's crazy. You never had one of these. They were like these little molds that you would inject with like this plastic rubber shit.
Oh, I remember seeing these on commercials and always wanting one.
I'm pretty sure. You know what? I thought I had one of these, but now that I remember, I had the one that came out in the 90s that made like edible things. It was basically like an easy bake oven, but you made little gummy candies.
Yeah. I guess you really don't need to use like to make gummy candies. Don't you just chill them? Wouldn't it be like just getting them colder actually?
Yeah, probably. It probably is what it was. It just like was a little, you plugged it in and it cooled it off or something. Or had a fan or something. It blew air on them until they were solidified.
Whenever we talk about these toys, it always just reminds me of like commercials being pumped into my brain in the
With like I remember the machine I'm talking about with like the mad scientist guy and the commercials is like, yes, you make this and blah, and he's like eating them and stuff. The oven that came on the Creepy Crawler back then too, like safety measures were not as stringent for children. 390 degrees is what that open face oven gets up to cure these creepy crawlers.
Damn.
Dangerous.
Yeah.
Burn yourself easy, obviously. You can also just burn your house down.
Well, I wonder how many of these things caused fires.
But have to imagine there at least was one.
Yeah, it's not zero, I don't think.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and crawl on over to the sports section now. Creepily.
All right. Moving into the sports world, we are going to talk about the champions of the sports in the United States, but the Olympics did happen also this year. On January 29th to February 9th, the Winter Olympics were in Austria. The Summer Olympics would happen in Japan, and this is the first time that there would be a Summer Olympics outside of North America and Europe.
Yes. And in case anyone is keeping track and they're like, wait, you said in 1972. 1972, Japan held the Winter Olympics, which is the first time a Winter Olympics would be held outside of Europe or North America.
Yes. But here on the home front, we'll talk about the champions. The World Series champions were the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cleveland Browns won the NFL championship. The AFL championship was the Buffalo Bills. The NBA champions were the Boston Celtics. The Stanley Cup champions were the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Always Canada.
Yeah. But for the Cleveland Browns, Jim Brown was the first person to ever rush for 10,000 yards.
Damn, how many touchdowns did he score that game? 10,000 yards. I just thought about in the football also, the Buffalo Bills. I was like, what is the Bills name? Where does that name come from? I just always think of them because they have a buffalo on their helmet.
Mm-hmm.
Why are they the Bills?
I don't know.
Because is Buffalo Bill was that like a cowboy? The Buffalo Williams. The historical frontiersman was known as Buffalo Bill, was born William Frederick Cody. So that is probably what it is.
Yeah, maybe.
Or it's named after the guy from Silence of the Lambs. Would you fuck me? I have to imagine it's named after Buffalo Bill Cody. That's now that I say the name with Cody in there, I remember it's Buffalo Bill Cody. That he was like a guy who like went around shooting shit really well and like with Annie Oakley in like the cross country tour thing. I remember learning about that in 4th grade, I believe.
Yeah, it is. Their owner, James Brule, was infatuated with Buffalo Bill.
Good thing they were in Buffalo. It'd be funny if they were that. They were like the Saratoga Buffalo Bills.
On February 25th, Cassius Clay defeats Sonny Liston.
Who? Who's Cassius Clay?
Oh, you'll recognize him later.
Later on, just a month later.
Just wait. At the start of the 7th round, Sonny Liston called it and threw in the towel. Clay was just too fast for him. Liston couldn't hit him. Yeah, watching he was just bobbing and weaving. And he just couldn't
you watched it too?
Him. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I've never really seen Ali box before. It was like, damn, this is nuts. Those first couple rounds, I was like embarrassed for Sonny Liston. He was just like swinging at the air. It was gnarly. And the announcers kept being like, Ali's got a really weird style. He's got a really awkward style. Like, that's why he's having such a hard time hitting them. And you're like, that's what boxers do, is duck and weave and shit. But back then it was like, all right, bitch, fucking hit me and I'll hit you back.
Yeah, I mean,
trading blows.
But that was part of Liston's thing, was like he hit so hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, if you can't hit anybody because you're barreling punches, you're going to lose. Yeah. Sorry.
He was a feared man in the ring. Like, legitimately, people were very, very afraid of him. Johnny Tocco was his trainer. He also worked with George Foreman and Mike Tyson as well. And he said that Sonny Liston hit the hardest out of the three of them.
Damn.
Which is wild, yeah. I mean, that guy was his name was the Big Bear. People were like, that guy will obliterate you. So everyone Ali had 8-1 odds against him. Jeez. People were like, there's no way this skinny little, he was young. I think he was 22.
Yeah, he was 22.
Liston said he was 32, but people said he might have actually been 34. Record keeping was harder to maintain back then, so people didn't actually know how old he was. So he might have been older than he said. That kind of might have been why he was losing his step a little bit. The British champion at the time, he was so afraid of Sonny Liston that he said, if Ali wins this fight, I will face him in the ring. If Liston wins it, I'm not doing it. He's like, I'm not going to challenge the guy if Liston does it. I'm just afraid of him. His manager said to the press, we don't even want to meet Liston walking down the same street. Like, let alone getting in the ring with this guy. We're fucking afraid of him. So everybody in the world was like, Ali is toast. There's no way this guy's going to do it. And he had a couple, like a rough couple matches before this. He won them, but not like super handily. He happened to scrape by and get a couple wins under his belt. So we were like, this young kid, he did the Olympics thing. We talked about that before his professional career started. So he had like some notoriety, but he had not been showing up the way that he would during this fight. Liston also learned to fight in prison, which he went to for armed robbery. So he was like a bad dude before he even got in the ring.
Yeah.
And his contract was owned by Frankie Carbo, who ran the boxing interest for the mafia.
Oh, shit.
So, yeah, he was tied up with the mob, and he came from prison, and it was like the real fucking deal. Old school boxing, just powerhouse, punching people harder than Mike Tyson. So, yeah, it was like, this is a foregone conclusion. This guy is winning this fight. And like you said, lasted 7 rounds and couldn't get back in the ring. His shoulder got blown out, is what he said. Some of his trainers and shit also said there was an existing injury that, like, if you watch that fight, he wasn't really able to lift his right arm too well at the beginning of the fight.
Yeah, he's swinging at air the whole time, not hitting anything.
Yeah, you throw your arm right out of its socket. I also read that, and then you see it in the footage, that Ali in the 4th round, his eyes started burning, and like he wanted to cut his gloves off and quit the fight because he couldn't see shit, and his eyes were just like on fire. You could see him, he's like, at one point, and he asked them to cut off his gloves, and his trainer won't let him do it. That's why the 4th round, he's just kind of like taking punches and sort of trying to dodge shit. He managed to stay alive somehow, but he couldn't see anything. And then when he finally sweated out all of the whatever was in his eyes, he comes back and beats Liston. But they say that in the 3rd round, Ali punches Liston and opens up a cut under his eye. I mean, you see it too immediately. He's like, his eye balloons up. When they put in some ointment to like seal that cut, supposedly some of it got on Liston's gloves. And that's what was burning his eyes. But people have speculated that his trainers might have just been like buttering him up with this shit and putting it on his gloves to incapacitate his opponents. Because there were unconfirmed reports that 2 of his other prior opponents in the ring also complained about burning eyes.
Damn.
Yeah, so this guy was, do whatever it took to win, I guess.
Yeah, I guess when you come from a criminal background, and the mob's betting on you, they're like, you better win this fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Or else.
Put the fix in a little bit, I guess. Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, Cassius Clay, we keep talking. I kept saying his current name on accident because at the time he was Cassius Clay, but of course he would go on to change his name on March 6th to Muhammad Ali. I have one other sports thing very briefly that I want to mention. On December 18th, the most badass wrestler in the history of the World Wrestling Federation was born. If you love Stone Cold Steve Austin, let me hear a hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
So I just had to wear something, and I was like, tell me Stone Cold was born in 64. I got this shirt. So I got my Austin 316 shirt on. I have wanted this shirt since I was a child. And I went and bought it at a Vintage Mart recently, like a year ago for like $60. I was yeah. I'm buying this shit. It's from the 90s. It's like got holes and shit on it and everything else, but it's like a legit Austin 316 shirt.
That's super cool. Hell yeah.
It was listed for a lot more too, but I didn't have enough cash and the guy was cool. So he let me take it for 60. And that's the bottom line.
And that's fun. Well, where did we see wrestling at, Trey? On TV.
Wonderful transition. That was a great transition. It's the best one I've heard in years. Let's see. Top performing television programs. Briefly, we'll talk about these. Pretty interesting top couple here. Because Beverly Hillbillies was at number 1 at the start of the year, dropped to number 12. A lot better. There were a lot of better sitcoms came out this year, and people were like, we don't need to keep watching this dumb shit. They stopped. Bonanza would move from the 2nd position up to the 1st position when that occurred. And 2 new programs would debut this year and take the 2nd and 3rd slots for the second half of the year, which were Bewitched came in at number 2, and Gomer Pyle USMC would come in at number 3. 2 that I didn't really watch. I've seen Bewitched a little bit.
I
Gomer
watched
Pyle.
Bewitched not that long ago, actually,
Oh
just for
yeah,
the hell of it. Yeah.
I've seen like a couple. I also used to get it kind of conflated with I Dream of Jeannie. Like they're sort of similar
Mm,
in premise. They're
yeah.
pretty much the
Hmm.
same premise, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean that was wildly popular when it came out. Gomer Pyle, I have seen a couple bits and pieces of that. That one's pretty annoying to me.
I've heard of it. I've never watched any
He's
of
the
it.
guy who talks like this.
Yeah.
Shazam! Yeah. Wowee, Sarge, and stuff like that. I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not watching this shit. People in the 50s were easily entertained. The 60s, I guess. It strikes me as a 50s show. Look at his funny voice. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Especially
Hmm.
because there were a lot of like high concept sitcoms that debuted this year. Like obviously Bewitched, high concept. Like, she's a witch. She lives with this guy. Can't blah blah blah. A lot of, like you have to like explain a lot of shit to get the point across of what these sitcoms were. You had Gilligan's Island come out this year. I loved Gilligan's Island when I was a kid. Did you ever watch
One
that
that
one?
I watched but never was like excited to watch.
Really?
Yeah, like I
I like that
watched
one
it
a
because
lot.
like I think everyone else was, but I never like loved that show.
That's funny. It was kind of silly too. Two that were very, very similar. It's always been so weird to me these came out at the same time. Obviously, somebody stole somebody else's idea, but the Addams Family and the Munsters both came out this year.
Yeah. Hmm.
I love both of those.
I watched both of those. I watched The Addams Family this week.
Oh, cool. That's one I actually watched a little bit less. I preferred the Munsters myself.
I preferred the Munsters when I was a kid, which is why I watched The Addams Family.
I think the Addams Family was kind of a little bit more sophisticated of a show, though. The Munsters just always boiled down to like, isn't he a Frankenstein? Look at him go. But like the Addams Family, there's a little bit more nuance, I think.
Yeah, it's true because they were like the first episode was them like someone from the school district like coming to their house and like saying like you guys have to put these kids in school. And Wednesday ends up coming home crying and they're like they killed the dragon, the knight in shining armor. I can't believe they killed him. And Gomez is like the violence.
It's funny.
It
Kind
was
of is
good.
the same thing too, though. It's like they're different than us. They're backwards people.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same premise, but I think it was better than they had to build characters. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like they're like, here's Dracula and here's Dracula's son, and then here's Frankenstein and here's Frankenstein's wife. It's like, well, you guys already just took all these characters and
Yeah.
already things.
Yeah,
At least the
exactly.
Addams family like had to be original and everybody had to like have their own thing,
Yeah, and there's a little bit more like nebulous a little bit where you're like, what are they like? They're not dead, right? Or are they? Like, I don't really. Are they just ghoulish people, or are they like actual like ghost people? What the fuck is this? But again, I really did love both of those shows, and I still do enjoy them both. You also had Daniel Boone debut this year, which starred Fess Parker, who, if you remember, was Davy Crockett.
Yep. Mm.
Weird that the same guy was Daniel Boone and Davy Crockett. That's super weird to me.
I mean,
It makes sense, but
good at that role, I guess. Not
yeah,
much else,
typecast.
maybe.
Yeah. The original iteration of Jeopardy would debut this year, went until 1971. One of those shows we've talked about a few different game shows that came out and then would just like a couple of years would pass by and they would retool it a little bit and come out with their own version.
So it was presented when I watched like little ad for the Jeopardy. It said a show where you are given the answers and you have to give the question. And I was like, why is it not presented like that now? That's what they're doing. But now it doesn't feel like that's like the premise of it anymore.
No, because it just devolved into saying what is at the beginning of it, which is dumb because it's like not even how you would phrase that question.
Exactly. That's why it would make sense that you have to figure out actually what the question is, not just who is. No, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
yeah, it's turned into just a trivia show when it used to be like there's a game here that you have to play. Mm-hmm. You have to like work out the riddle aspect of this. Like, yeah, that seems a lot more interesting.
Yes.
Again, it turned into such a tedious thing where they just go, who is Benjamin Franklin? You're like, this founding father is said to have discovered electricity flying a kite or whatever. And you're like, that's not how that question and answer relationship works.
Yeah.
I didn't watch any of the original one. I wonder if it is more of a game sort of thing where you're trying to actually figure out a question that fits the answer.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. I didn't watch it either, but I saw the like ad for it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. On December 16th, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer would come out as a TV special.
I love that one. That's like probably my favorite of those. I think it's a Rankin Bass thing. I mean, I just assumed they all. I know that the Santa Claus ones are. I'm pretty sure they did Rudolph as well.
Yes, it is Rankin Bass.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I love those old clay, or I guess I always thought they were clay, but like, aren't they like wood? Actually, I don't know.
Yeah, they're like dolls of some kind. Same
Yeah,
concept though, the stop motion kind of thing.
yeah.
I always like those. I look forward to those more than I do like other Christmas movies.
That kind of leads into some other cartoon type stuff, and just some of the big cartoons that came out this year. There were a couple big ones. Johnny Quest and Underdog were both pretty well known.
I really looked for Johnny Quest, but I wasn't gonna rent it. But I really wanted to watch it.
Yeah, I
love
couldn't
that
really
show.
find any of the cartoons this year. I was pretty bummed about that.
Yeah,
Because there were the other two that I was interested in seeing were Magilla Gorilla and Peter Potamus. Those were two that like Hanna-Barbera cartoons that Magilla Gorilla I really remember. I did watch some of that one where he's like in a pet store, but I loved the song from the Boomerang bumper for it. Where we're like, we got a gorilla for sale, Magilla Gorilla for sale. There's a gorilla for sale, Magilla Gorilla for sale. Don't you want a gorilla you can call your own?
I do not remember that.
That was really funny. And then last thing I'll say on TV, which is a good little transitional piece here. Speaking on what I was talking about at the top of the episode, on February 9th, the Beatles will perform on Ed Sullivan for the first time to 73 million viewers. This is really what kind of helped kickstart the whole Beatle Mania thing. I watched their performance, and I just wrote down the songs they did. It was All My Loving, Until There Was You, Then She Loves You, I Saw Her Standing There, and I Want to Hold Your Hand, closed out the show. So they did do most of the big hits. Till There Was You was kind of the weird random one in there that I was like, this is not like, this hasn't stood up as being one of their big all-time hits, and then it gets right back into being all the other good stuff, you know?
Yeah, I saw this thing that George Harrison was like an interview, and he was like, "Yeah, they say that crime stopped in all the United States for 10 minutes while we were playing. That's how many people were watching."
I am sure.
Whatever you say, George.
There had to have been some significant number of crimes that didn't occur. I guess 73 million people. That's back then. That was like half the people.
That is a lot of people.
Well, we're about to talk about the Beatles more in just a moment as we get into the music section, which around here we do by briefly. We're going to just mention what the top 5 songs were from the Billboard charts. Talk about what else hit the year-end Hot 100, anything that sticks out to us. And then we're going to just talk about a couple other songs that debuted this year but did not land on the year-end Hot 100. If you want to follow along, you're more than welcome to by checking out the link in our episode description or in our bio on Instagram, which will take you to our Spotify playlist. First 50 songs in that playlist all come from the Hot 100. Everything after that did not land on there. Let's kick it off on the top 5 by getting into number 5, which is I Get Around by the Beach Boys. My favorite version of this song is the Red Hot Chili Peppers cover of it. It's pretty funny.
I don't think I've ever listened to it. Maybe I have.
It's funny. It's worth checking out. I just heard it randomly, like not that long ago. It wasn't one that like I grew up listening to or anything. Just a year or two ago, I was just came across it. My favorite part is the bass part. It was like, yeah, get around, woo, I get around. It's pretty funny. Highlights the humor involved in this silly song.
Number 4 is "Oh Pretty Woman" by Roy Orbison. Are you familiar with this song?
Yeah, I love this song. This is a good one.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah, this was really. I mean, this a good top 5. Really, a couple really strong ones. The one we're about to talk about in a second was kind of surprising, but the Beach Boys on there, Roy Orbison. I think he's really good. I think he's got a cool voice. He's got that fucking in the middle of it. That's so funny. I got in trouble once when I was like in like 2nd grade or something for singing this song and saying "Pretty woman walking down the street, pretty woman,
Really? So
she got stinky feet." And then the teacher was walking by. She's like, "What did you say?" And they told her, and she's like, "Don't say that. That's rude." Like she's not real. It's not a real woman.
And it's totally a 2nd grader thing to get in trouble for.
Number 3 is "Hello Dolly" by Louis Armstrong. This was a little bit of a weird one to me. I was like, his album was called Hello Dolly. Is this song from Hello Dolly? And there actually was like an Ella Fitzgerald's album as well that was Hello Dolly this year. The stage production would debut in 1964 of Hello Dolly.
Mm.
The movie would come out a few years later, but at this point, it was big on Broadway. And so, yeah, you just had people. It still was close enough to the time of people like repurposing popular music and just redoing it themselves. That was still going on at this point.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you had that this year. I liked it though. I thought it was a cool. I really liked like the style of it, kind of like old school New Orleans jazz sort of feel, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I love Louis Armstrong.
Yeah, he's fun to listen to. Hello, Dolly.
Yeah, he's great. He's great.
Such a
So,
funny voice to like
just
get
like
famous for
such like
singing.
feel good music.
Yeah, yeah, it really was like, oh, I really, it made me feel happy to be listening to it.
Number 2 is "She Loves You" by the Beatles. What do you feel about the early Beatles? How do you feel
I've
about them?
I've had an interesting relationship with them. They were like my favorite band when I was a really little kid. My dad and I, we didn't really bond on a whole bunch of stuff when I was a kid. But one time we had like a long drive to go to Orange County, and he put on the Beatles one because it had just come out, and I really loved it. He was like, "You like this?" And he was like, "I love the Beatles." So we just like bonded over liking the Beatles. So I really fell in love with all this early music. I want to hold your hand. She loves you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All that shit was a big formative thing for me. And then I got a little older and was like, that stuff was kind of goofy, you know? And now I have a little bit more of like an appreciation for it. But for a big chunk of my life, I didn't really like the early stuff.
I think the Beatles are kind of like their own little category. They don't sound like everybody else, which is why I do like them.
I
Even
think the
like for
more
this time period, like they're unique, you know?
I don't know. I think kind of people always like talk about them like that, like oh, they're such a unique thing, and it's like really when I get into more of the music that came out around the same time, I'm like they kind of were the same as everybody else in my mind a little bit. Like I mean, they have a little bit of their own sound with the harmonies and shit that they would do. They use a little bit more interesting chords. They were a lot better musicians than a lot of people were, but I think sound wise, they kind of just were doing what everyone else did and just sort of were more popular. That's it.
Yeah.
Because especially when we get into what else came out this year, I was pretty shocked that a lot of this stuff wasn't like a year or two after the British invasion, the Beatle Mania. Like, there's a lot of stuff that came out of the rest of this Hot 100 that was like, oh damn, this is kind of a lot cooler than what they were doing, and like the more rock and roll. You
Yeah.
know, they were kind of more. I guess they were big pop musicians, really. We'll go ahead and say while we're on the subject of them, the Beatles would also take home the number one spot for the year with "I Want to Hold Your Hand," which made them the second time an artist took home the top two spots at the year-end Hot 100 after Elvis had done so in 1956. And it's the first time ever that an artist during this year, they replaced themselves at the top of the album charts because they had two albums come out this year.
Damn.
So yeah, I mean they were the most popular thing, and something that is really when you talk about them being a singular act, all that kind of stuff. They were more popular than everyone else had ever been. I mean, they still are. So they still are more popular than the rest of the groups that came out at that time that were just as influential, just as interesting, but were not didn't have the PR team or whatever the fuck made the Beatles into this superstardom.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Let's go ahead and take a look at what else was on here on the Hot 100 first, and then just jump around. I got to say, this is one of the years that I recognized more music than other years. This is like some of the most amount of music I've recognized off of Hot 100.
Yes. And I feel like a lot of this music is just like on my regular shuffle of music anyway.
Yeah, yeah. And then a lot of this as well would go on to be covered a lot later and have like a really well known later version.
Speaking of that, number 14 on our list is Dancing in the Street.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that would go on. This is by Martha Reeves and the Vandellas. This just reminds me of Mick Jagger and David Bowie.
Yeah,
Lame.
their goofy ass version of it.
Yeah.
You also had like around there, number 10 on our list was "Where Did Our Love Go" by the Supremes. It would obviously get retooled into "Tainted Love" many years later. That version's very popular. Where did our love go? Do Wah Diddy by Man for Man. By the way, it's crazy that guy made music for song. A couple of these bands that would like go on to do something else much later, like "Do Wah Diddy Diddy," like an old timey 50s harken back sort of song. And then later on, he would go on to be the guy who does "Revved Up Like a Deuce, Another Runner in the Night." Totally different genre.
Some people are good with moving with the times, you know?
Yeah, he definitely was just doing the shit that everybody was doing, that 50s throwback stuff that was still going on at this point with Doo Diddy, and then later found his voice a little bit more.
Under the Boardwalk
Good
by the
song.
Drifters. It's a great song, classic.
Bread and Butter by the New Beats is so funny. I like bread and butter.
Yeah, I love that song.
I've always liked that since I was a kid. I watched like the music video for it, not a couple of years ago for the first time I saw them as they sang it. I was like, whoa, not what I pictured that guy looking like. He is much different than I assumed. I always thought it was like a small black child. It's like a chubby white man, an adult, like very adult looking man.
It's funny.
Underneath that, a couple here. I'll point this out. A World Without a Love by Peter and Gordon, number 22 on our list. That song was actually written by Paul McCartney. He was sharing a room with his girlfriend's brother. Like he lived with his girlfriend's family, and her brother was Peter Asher of Peter and Gordon. So he wrote the song like there. He wasn't really sure if he could do anything with it. And Peter was like, "Can I have it?" He said, "Yeah, sure, go ahead." So he and his friend Gordon went on and recorded it and had some success.
Damn, that's pretty cool. Did they give any credit to him?
Yeah, he got the songwriting credit for it.
Yeah.
This album cover is fucking hilarious, though, of these two guys.
Yeah,
they look wild on there. It's just their faces, like with like they're like, "Look, you guys, you're a couple of lookers, so we're just gonna no artwork, nothing else, just your pasty white faces with the harshest light imaginable."
These haircuts were popular at the time, right? Talk about the Beatles doing everything else.
Yeah, just copying his girlfriend's older brother. When Megan saw the picture of them too, she was like, "They look like Austin Powers and Basil." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right." She's like, "I might have based them off of them," and I was like, "I wouldn't doubt it." Like it's 60s,
that's hilarious.
You know, the 60s British thing, and so they're like, "Yeah, let's be Peter and Gordon."
But the one right below it on our list, number 23, is Have I the Right by the Honeycombs, and their album cover is just all of them. It's just like their high school pictures.
I mean, that's
like, it's just like part of the aesthetics of the era.
Yeah, I thought that song was interesting because the thought process behind it is so different than we were in the 60s, how we are now. Because he's like, "Have I the right to hold you and to call you mine and to own you?" And it's like, no, you don't have the right, motherfucker. She's giving you the privilege to do those things, you son of a bitch. "Have I the right to make you my property?" She's like, "No." And then I thought, very funny, two under that on our list is "You Don't Own Me" by Leslie Gore, which I love.
Have
that
I
song.
have the right? No, you don't.
No, you don't own me. That's a really good song, though. I like that one a lot.
And then House of the Rising Sun by the Animals is on here. Classic.
Yes, that's one of the ones that I'm like, damn, that came out the same year as like Beatle Mania stuff. Like that song fucking kicks ass. You would think that was way later, like when rock and roll had a couple years to sort of solidify. But it's like, no, there was cool stuff going on, you know?
This song is a cool song. It's not the Animals who wrote it. I can't remember who did it originally, but it's actually about like the woman's perspective of being in a whorehouse, not the man being at the whorehouse. So if you listen to the lyrics from that perspective, it's a lot cooler of a song. Actually, it's like kind of sad. Actually, I gotta look up who originally did that. The one I'm talking about is in 1937. It's recorded by Georgia Turner at the age of 16 in Kentucky.
Dang, that's cool. I gotta check that out.
It's called House of the Rising Blues. Yeah,
Dang,
but it's the same song, but it's about a different perspective of it. Yeah, it's cool.
Dang, I gotta re-listen to it with that sort of thought process behind it. The Girl from Ipanema, that's another fun song. And that actually won Grammy for Song of the Year from this year over She Loves You.
I know I've heard this song in movies and stuff. I expected to see it a little higher on the list, to be honest.
Yeah, it is kind of, and especially that it did win the Grammy and stuff. It was a well-regarded song, but yeah, I guess it wasn't huge. I mean, it did make the Hot 100 for the year, but it wasn't like huge on the radio.
Yeah.
A couple of this is one of the ones that from this year. Actually, there's two right in a row on our list that really are like, damn, that was going on this year. Like rock and roll was fucking like that heavy back then. Was Surfin' Bird. The song is silly and stupid, but it's like, damn, it's like the first punk song ever. They were like rocking the fuck out of that song.
Yeah.
You know? That's a really cool song. Papa Uma Mau Mau, Papa Uma Mau Mau. It's like, damn, they're like going hard on that shit. And that came out in 1963, so that like predated a lot of Beatles stuff. Like that was just like, dang, they were like full on. I said almost punk rock back then. The garage rock from the early '60s is like a weird. It didn't get hugely popular, but I mean, this hit the year end, so.
Hmm.
And then right under that, You Really Got Me by the Kinks. I mean, I always think they're like probably the most like musically influential band from the British invasion, but they got barred from playing in the U.S. and that kept them from exploding the way the other bands did at the time.
Why they get barred?
Because the Davies brothers really just like were extremely volatile with each other. They played a gig on TV here, and they got in a huge fight, and one of them threw a cymbal at the other one, and like a huge physical altercation happened, and they're like, "You guys aren't allowed to play in the U.S. anymore," because back then censorship was pretty big. So
Yeah, yeah.
they're just like, "You can't be here. You're destroying the youth."
So is Money? That's what I got. How old is this song? Because I see so many people cover this song.
I don't know. I think the Kingsman version is the original. It was the first hit record for Motown Records, actually.
What year?
Uh, 1959. Barrett Strong recorded it first. I was gonna say it does sound like a black song,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
most of the artists you hear do it are white. So I thought it was funny. Like the Kingsman version of it does sound a lot more like the original. Well, I'm guessing the original version of it would have. And then the Beatles came in later and like, man, why did they really like fucking tear all the character out of this song when they do it? That's what I
Yeah.
want. That's what I want. But the Kingsman version is pretty good.
Yeah, and then other garage bands would do it too that are fun.
At number 100 for the year end would be Needles and Pins by the Searchers. And speaking of early punk stuff, like this one, not that this is punk at all, but the Ramones have a cover of this song that I really like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's how I knew it first. Like, oh, Needles and Pins. I always had an idea that it was an old song that they were covering, but I never like looked into it. So I was like, oh, okay, I see what they were doing. Because like them and the Misfits were really into the 50s rock.
And then Bob Dylan is number 51 with The Times They Are Changing. You would
So
think that
yeah,
that one would have been in the top 100.
yeah. There are a couple off of this that are not in the Hot 100 and didn't ever end up hitting a year-end Hot 100 that are pretty shocking. Or a couple of these did go on a little bit later, because 51's The Times They Are Changing. So yeah, Dylan wasn't that popular right off the bat. Viva Las Vegas by Elvis Presley, I would have definitely assumed was in the Hot 100. One
Yeah.
of those songs that you're like, it's held on. You still hear that shit when you're in Las Vegas.
I play it every time I drive into Vegas.
Yeah, it's a great song.
We got to put it on in the car when you're driving in.
You also had No Particular Place to Go by Chuck Berry. Pretty shocked that never. I mean, it's kind of late in the game for that Chuck Berry stuff, but like it still is a song that you know now. Anytime a song from 60 years ago is still something people know, it's weird to me that it didn't take off in the day.
Yeah, that's true.
And then underneath that, you got The Sound of Silence. But notably, this is from the Wednesday Morning 3 a.m. album of Simon and Garfunkel, not from the Sound of Silence album, which would come out a couple years later. This was not a hit for them when it came out. We've talked about when it did hit the top 5 for the year end,
Hmm.
because this song it would go on to be extremely popular after it was remixed and overdubbed with electric instruments and drums in September of 1965 by their manager without their knowledge. So he went back and like changed it from an acoustic song to an electric based song because rock and roll was popular, and that's what finally got them to have some success on the charts.
I mean,
So
how mad could you possibly be?
yeah, I but they're kind of a little bit of like pretentious artisty guys, so I'm sure they were pretty annoyed. But you
Yeah.
know, people are listening to your boring ass music now, so can't complain, can you?
She's Not There by the Zombies is a great song.
Yeah, the single would come out this year. It did. They had it come out on the album next year, but neither one charted. But I just thought, oh, it's interesting that all of these bands were getting started because you have the debut of the Zombies as well as right underneath that you have Herman's Hermits. That was their
Yep.
debut single. Something tells me I'm into something good.
Hmm.
You also had the debut of the Hollies, who their song on here, "Stay," is like such a kitchen sink song of them just being like, we're gonna take everything that's popular right now. Like they have kind of like that seagull crying sort of
Hmm.
thing in the background. They have like the harmonies. They have just like they were like trying to figure out how to be popular. They had Long Cool Woman with a Black Dress in the 70s. So they're one of those bands who like came out at this time, but then would go on to change their sound and be way sicker later. Another band who did the same thing would come out this year was The Who. another one that you're like, you don't think of them as a 60s bands. Like they're contemporaries with the Beatles, but you think of like Baba O'Reilly and all that kind of hard rock shit they come out with later. But
Yeah.
at this point, actually, they were still called the High Numbers. So this is before they got big. This was Simon and Garfunkel's debut. I just mentioned them a second ago. And the other two artists that debuted this year were pretty interesting were the Rolling Stones, the Beatles' #1 competition. It took them a couple albums to get really good, I think, but Not Fade Away is a pretty good song. That was like their second single, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a good song.
That one's good. And then right underneath that, actually, Marianne Faithfull's As Tears Go By. I don't know if you recognize that song. The Stones actually wrote that. Jagger and Richards.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they wrote that one. And they were like, this song's kind of schmaltzy and not that good. And their manager was like, let's just try to sell it. And they're like, I don't like this song. But then they ended up selling it. And then it was a hit for Marianne. Not like a huge hit, but, it made her some money. So then they re-recorded it later in their own version. But I kind of know her version better.
I've heard of that song before.
And then the last person who debuted this year was actually pretty interesting to me. I don't know if you saw it on there. The song called Ringo, I Love You. It's number 74 on our list. It's credited to Bonnie Jo Mason. This was the debut single of Cher.
No shit.
Yeah, so go back and listen to that song. It's actually kind of a fucking cool song, too. It was like way doper than I thought Cher would have come out. It's like a fucking garage rock. It was pretty sick. And I was like, dang, I didn't know she like did interesting music back in the day. It was pretty cool. It was a cool song. She also would start playing with Sonny this year. So I kind of always thought her career either predated Sonny and Cher, and then like as she was successful, they got married or something. But really, it was that she was starting her career and she was just like, I'm not comfortable doing this. Will you do this with me? And he was like, sure, I'll do it. Like they were married. And so he was like, oh, okay, I'll go out there with you. And so that's why she was popular, was because of him just going up there with her and kind of giving her the courage to do it. And then she would start doing it on her own more and more.
That's cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. But this one didn't get a lot of airplay because of her voice, the timbre of her voice. A lot of DJs thought she was a guy. So they thought this was a gay song.
Oh.
So they wouldn't play it. Yeah. Because, Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones got into, they wouldn't get played a lot at this time because a lot of DJs thought he was black because of his voice. So they wouldn't allow his music on white radio, which is, I think, why the Beatles like really like heightened their accents in their first couple singles, like they try to sound as British as possible.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, I just thought that was interesting. It was like, you can't be black and sing on this radio and you can't be gay either. But neither one was true.
I like how you put It's a Small World on here.
Yeah, I had to throw it on there.
So Sam Cooke came out with the song this year. A Change Is Gonna Come. Fortunately, on December 11th, Sam Cooke would be shot and killed in a Hacienda Motel in LA. He was shot by the motel manager named Bertha Franklin, who claimed self-defense. I guess the motel owner was on the phone with Bertha Franklin when all this was happening, and he heard it. Apparently, Cooke came in wearing one shoe and a jacket only. He broke into the office, and he was looking for a girl that he came in with earlier that day, and apparently she had already fled the scene. But the manager would fire 3 bullets, and then one of them would hit him and kill him. But apparently, there's a corroborating stories that this girl he was with was a prostitute. And one account says that Boyer called and said that he kidnapped her, and then the other account says that she was there willingly but left. Who knows what really happened, I guess. But
yeah, there is a fascinating documentary that I watched a couple of years ago about this. As for documentaries, it's hard because you watch a documentary and they present all this evidence in such a way that you're like, oh wow, I totally agree with what was said here. But it also is always is the evidence they're deciding to present you. But I do recommend checking it out. I'm a huge fan of Sam Cooke, and it's called The 2 Killings of Sam Cooke, because essentially what this documentary purports is that all of that shit is made up basically to assassinate his character, that he was murdered and pretty, it was not like that. None of this shit was really going on. He got killed, and then to cover it up and everything else like that, all of the white powers that be spun him into being this villain, which everyone said was so against his character up until that point. And there's really nobody who knew him believes that this happened in the way that they say it did at all. So it's a really interesting documentary. I don't remember all the ins and outs of it, but I know I watched it and I walked away from it thinking, that sucks. The two killings of Sam Cooke was when he died, and then they assassinated his character afterwards. So I don't know. Again, I don't really remember all the ins and outs of it. I just know that there was a lot of stuff that really, with the way they presented the information, I'm like, damn, that does not seem like that was the case. But who knows? People can have trouble, and you're a famous person, and drugs exist. So
yeah,
who knows? But let's get down to the bottom of the list where you have all of the fun stuff. You Never Had It So Good. Not a good song, but I thought it was interesting that Frank Sinatra and Bing Crosby got on a record together. Two of America's great voices come together to a really terrible album. So you got Goldfinger by Shirley Bassey. That's a great Bond theme. Like the sound of it, the gravitas that it has, Goldfinger. But it's so funny because it was like, man, she could not get off the rhyme of gold and cold. She just couldn't think of anything else to rhyme it with. He's like, got such a cold finger. You're like, he's got a cold finger. What the fuck? And then later he's like, his heart is cold and it's made of gold. You're like, okay, come on. There's other words there. That's one of the easiest words to rhyme with.
That's funny.
Last one on our list here it's another Beach Boys song. I don't typically like to put two songs by the same artist on this. They came in at number 5, but they also had their really fantastic Christmas album came out this year. And man, they're like Mariah Carey in that they're like one of the only bands to come out with like a Christmas song that became a real Christmas song.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
People, they have a couple of this one. It's like Little Saint Nick, The Man with All the Toys. Like, that's cool that they have two songs that would go on to be like actual well-regarded Christmas songs that you can sing without people going, oh, it's a Beach Boys song, Last two songs on the list are from a couple movies. You have I Could Have Danced All Night from the My Fair Lady movie came out this year starring Audrey Hepburn. She's not in this track, though. She only sang one song in the actual film. She was dubbed for everything else. Underneath that, you have a song by someone who was really, really hoping to be cast as Eliza Doolittle, actually. Really held out hope that she would have that. But instead, she would go on to be the singer of Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Let's go ahead and jump on from the music into the movies with that. All right, so let's get on over to the number one movie in the country, which was Mary Poppins. This movie came out on August 27th of 1964, directed by Robert Stevenson, with a screenplay by Bill Walsh and Don DeGrady, which was based on Mary Poppins by P.L. Travers. It's actually a series of books. I didn't know that there were more than one of these. It starred Julie Andrews and Dick Van Dyke. I'm not going to name the kids. No one will know what their names are. The budget was around $5 million. Gross in 1964 was $31 million. And let me get off a quick plot synopsis, very brief this time. In turn of the century London, a magical nanny employs music and adventure to help two neglected children come closer to their father. All right. Did you grow up watching Mary Poppins? Was this one that you
I
loved
have
as
not.
a boy?
I haven't seen Mary Poppins since I was a boy. It's been a very, very long time since I've seen this movie. I feel like I was basically watching it for the first time. But then every time something would happen, it would just like jog a memory and be like, oh, yeah, I remember this,
Yeah.
But it's just been so long since I've seen it that I basically forgot all about it. Watching it now as an adult, like recognizing all of the people, Julie Andrews is hot, let me tell you, back then.
Yeah, she was really pretty.
I don't remember her being so mean. I don't remember Mary Poppins being so mean.
I was like, damn, she's kind of a wet blanket. Like, she really is, like, comes in to ruin all the fun every time they start something. It's like, bitch, you're the magical one. You're the one who brought us into this painting. Why can't we race horses? What the fuck?
Stop. What do you mean? And then she, like, gaslights them. Like, we didn't ride horses. They're like, what the fuck? Yeah, we did. You won the race.
I really was like, it confused me a little bit, too. I was kind of like, throughout the whole first half of it, I was very much thinking, I don't really get what the point of this is, really. Like, not, I understand it's a magical, whatever, blah, blah. But it was like, what's like the moral of this story? The kids, because it's like you meet the kids and right away it's like, oh, these are bad kids. And then everyone's like, they're not bad. And you're like, are they bad or not? Like the cop's like, don't punish them, sir. They was just chasing the kite.
It doesn't seem like the kids are bad to me.
No, I don't think they didn't seem bad. But then at the same time, they kept running away. All the nannies quit. We're supposed to believe they're bad. But then right away, all the other characters say, but they're not actually.
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
you are right.
That just confused me.
Yeah.
I just kept thinking like, well, so who's the one we're supposed to like be on the side of? But then the second half of the movie, it was like, oh, okay, maybe he is a little too into work and they're a little too crazy a little bit. And so when you kind of meet in the middle through song and dance, they become they become a closer family. And yeah, and I guess it worked out for him in the end too, because you're like, this he lost his job, but oh no, he killed his boss. So everything worked out okay.
The banker's son was super excited that his dad was dead. It was like, no, it was like, no, this is great. You know, like we all love this.
Yeah, that was a very when he said like, oh, he laughed himself to death, and then he was like, oh, he's like, no, it's good. I kind of expected him to be like, oh no, I just meant like in a figure of speech way. He's happy. He's actually alive. But he was like, no, he was the happiest he ever was when he was dying. And then like, oh shit. That character's really cool though with the Dick Van Dyke.
Yeah, he
coming
did a
with the
good
makeup
job.
and stuff. That was my favorite role of his in this movie of the two that he essayed.
Yeah.
I prefer his old man character a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's something that I think I talked about a little bit at the top of the show, that everyone is his accent work in this movie is very criticized very heavily. People talk about how terrible his Cockney voice was.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think it comes and goes. Some points of it, it's not terrible. I think as a kid, I was like, is he British? I didn't know. You know? Like, he does a really good American accent back on that show he had.
Right in the beginning, that the old man on the top of the roof,
Yeah.
the pirate guy or whatever they are. I don't understand. I don't really understand their plot in this. Maybe if I read the books, I would. But I recognize him immediately. That's he plays Scrooge in the version of that I used to watch of
yes,
the Christmas Carol. But dude, that guy was born in 1987 or 1887.
Damn, he's still alive.
Right. And then Ed Wynn, who's like a famous actor, he was born in 1889.
Damn,
it's like,
that's
dude,
crazy.
It's crazy that like these people that I recognize so like abruptly, and I know their voices, they're born in the 1800s. Like, what?
Yeah,
the fuck?
that's pretty wild. That's like that's pretty funny. We're like, oh yeah, who's your favorite 1800s actor? Like, oh, I have a list here. Really a big fan of Ed Wynn. Well, let's see. We can get into some of that casting stuff while we're talking about Ed Wynn, because he was a big like choice that they made basically to put him in this movie. He's famously is the voice of the Mad Hatter in Alice in Wonderland. Of course, he's got a very recognizable voice.
Yeah, and he plays in the Twilight Zone episode.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yes, the Twilight Zone, where he's trying to sell everything or whatever to death, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't talk like that in the episode.
A little bit. He kind of sounds like that anyway. His normal voice.
Yeah, it is like it kind of is his normal voice. And that was something too that they wanted him to do, like a Viennese accent, which I guess would be like Italian, right? Like Vienna?
I don't know. Oh, maybe. Yeah, I guess.
I don't know for sure. But they wanted him to do Viennese, whatever that is. And then he was like, I'm not going to do that. I can't do an accent like that. Like, will you at least be British? And he was like, no, that's preposterous. And so he just went out there and did his own thing, which was a much better choice. But yeah, for Uncle Albert, well, there are a couple casting things going on. I'll talk about him first, since we're just on him. The people they looked at were much different than that. There was Kirk Douglas was one of the people. You're like, you're gonna hire like fucking Spartacus to play the silly man on the roof? George Burns, I guess that would have made a little more sense. I can't picture what he would look like in the 60s though. I just think of George Burns as being old for forever. Say goodnight, Gracie.
Yeah.
Jack Albertson, he would have been prepared for Willy Wonka when he's up on the ceiling later. He's the grandfather.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So but if he had done that in Willy Wonka, he'd be like, I can't take this role. I can't be the guy who just floats against ceilings for the rest of my life. There was also Ray Bolger, Jack Haley, and Burt Lahr, otherwise known as the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion.
Oh shit.
So they looked at each of them individually for this part. And then
I could see the Scarecrow. It's kind of like campy and zany.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
I guess they all could have done it decently. They all did a good job in that movie of being, like wild characters.
Yeah.
And then also, two other weird ones were Jim Backus and Alan Hale, who are Thurston Howell III and the Skipper from Gilligan's Island, which would come out this year.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, they were like, oh, we didn't get that movie either one of us. Come on, buddy, and they went arm in arm, and someone was like, wait, you two. Also, Jim Backus is the voice of, which I never fucking noticed. Thurston Howell is the millionaire on Gilligan's Island. He's the voice of Mr. Magoo.
Oh, I never noticed that.
Yeah, as soon as I read that, I was like, oh shit, yeah, he is. Damn, that's wild that I never noticed. Another Gilligan's Island collection. Bob Denver, the guy who is Gilligan, he was looked at for the role of Bert.
Okay.
Which I think he kind of seems like he would fit. I don't know how his accent work is, but it doesn't matter. He didn't have to do a good accent. They also considered Andy Griffith, Cary Grant, Sean Connery, and Adam West. Casting a pretty big net.
Adam West would have been hilarious.
That would have been really funny. I would have loved it too if he just like don't do the British accent, just be an inexplicable Adam West chimney sweep.
I've never seen Sean Connery play like a role that's like that. I was
Humorous,
plays, yeah. He always plays like Bond or like in The Rock.
Yeah.
Like movies
Hunt for Red
like
October or whatever.
Yeah.
He's got a couple movies that we'll talk about that he did get involved in this year. He was too busy. He wouldn't have been able to do this. He
was definitely too busy for this. Yeah. I think they made a good choice, all in all.
Yeah. I mean, that's the best thing about Dick Van Dyke is his ability to do physical comedy, and that's when he's shuffling around doing the penguin dance and his stuff with the cane.
Just the way you like walking off the curbs and doing little things like that.
Yeah. He really did hold his own in the dance scenes too. I was pretty surprised because a lot of times when you see a star in a big choreographed number, they'll kind of be doing like a little bit of like, hey, look at me go, and everyone around's all,
yeah,
and he was pretty much keeping up with everybody. And he looked the funniest doing it. Everyone else like was dancing, and he was like doing all the right moves and be like, woo, woo, woo,
all zany and wacky.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Let's get over to the Mary Poppins role and see who was considered for that one. Tangentially related to Gilligan's Island, a couple more sitcom people were considered for this. They didn't look at Mary Ann or Ginger. Unfortunately, that would have been cool if they had looked at like everybody from the show or Mrs. Thurston Howell. I don't know what her name is, the millionaire, and his wife. So she's unnamed. But they did look at Barbara Eden, who played Jeannie on I Dream of Jeannie, and Elizabeth Montgomery, who would come out in Bewitched this year. She was the witch. I don't know the witch's name. Samantha or some shit? I don't know.
Samantha, yes.
Okay. They also looked at Natalie Wood from West Side Story, Jane Mansfield, Elizabeth Taylor, Betty Davis, Judy Garland, and Angela Lansbury is probably like the biggest, like kind of was almost her, but it went with Julie Andrews. Angela Lansbury would kind of do the same thing a couple years later, and she'd be in Bed Knobs and Broomsticks.
Yeah, I just don't understand the dudes on the roof.
Yeah, that was weird. I thought that was something that was funny about the movie, though, and I wonder what it's like in the book and everything else, but I mean, it has to be the same for the most part. If these characters like Uncle Albert and those guys and the Chimney Sweeps, like all of them had like magical stuff. Even though Mary Poppins is the one who's like, oh, she brings the magic into the world, makes everything all zany. But it's like they already were doing. They were popping out of popping their heads out of little chimney holes, and those two guys just being weird ship captains up on the roof all day long, firing cannons and the house like wobbling back and forth and everything.
They all know about it. They're all ready for it.
Yeah,
they had to get Uncle Albert down because he was up there for 3 days, like before. Like all these things are happening outside of these little kids' like reality anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was a weird kind of thing. I was like, it would make more sense if the world was very boring and stark and just all very hard edged. And then she comes in and stuff starts. I mean, I guess that's like when they start noticing the magic in the world, or I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I thought that was very weird. And then like when she's gone and stuff, the dude floats up to the roof at the end when he starts laughing. It's like, so is everybody who laughs in this world start floating, or is it just old? It's just old men. You reach a certain age. If you were born in the 1800s and you laugh, so long, motherfucker.
But the kids did it.
That's true too. Yeah.
Actually,
I really don't know.
Speaking of that, they had to pay the little kid, David Tomlinson. Yeah, they had to pay him 10 cents for every time they did the tea scene because he was scared of heights.
Poor
I
little
was
kid.
like, Yeah, well, he got money out of it. The little girl's like, I'm scared of heights too. It's terrifying.
I'm even more scared than he is. You're gonna have to give me $1.
Oh, David Tomlinson is the banker, Mr. Banks.
Oh,
I got that name wrong.
so but he wasn't the one who they paid the 10 cents to.
No, it was the little boy,
Okay.
whatever the little boy's name is.
Well, speaking of that little kid, though, I saw something that was like, oh man, I just looked at his IMDb to see if he'd been in anything else. He got a very weird face, that kid. He looks
he
a
does
lot
a good
like the
shocked
dad.
face. He's like,
yeah,
like just get him just for that part. He's great.
but he's got the same like big old jowly cheeks and like wide, perfectly round eyes as the dad character did, David Tomlinson. They look like they could be fucking father and son. That's crazy. I looked into him a little bit to see if he was in anything else, because it always interests me to see, do these kids go on to be famous actors or what? And his like end date on his years lived was much closer to his born date than I would have expected. Let me pull him up real quick and find out how long he lived for.
It's a great way of saying he died young, right?
Well, that was just, I looked up and was like, those two are very close. Matthew Garber. He was born in 1956, died in 1977.
Oh, no.
So I was like, what happened to Matthew Garber? He died, I believe, from like dysentery. But it was
People
something like
get
that. He contracted some sort of illness while doing a like overland trek in India.
Oh, so he was like out in the wild,
in the brush.
Yeah.
And he got sick and wasn't able to get back to the doctors in time.
Dang. At least he died doing something cool. Wasn't just like OD'd or died in a car crash or something.
Yeah. I almost thought like, maybe he was sick or something, like, had a terminal illness or something like that to be that young for his born date and end date to be so close together.
We were talking about the dad, David Tomlinson. This is his first singing role professionally. He was worried about like not being good enough and all this stuff. So he like, Tim Trey took lessons and did all, but yeah, he's never sang before professionally.
I mean, I think that what he's doing singing is not like easy if you don't know how to do it in a way. Like it is kind of like just talking, but you can be bad at it. So,
yeah.
But his songs and the way he performs them is very like just talk singing,
Yes.
He's just very doing this. And so it's not like he has to really worry too hard, but it's perfect for his character. Like it fits perfectly. It wouldn't make sense for him to be like, I'm a banker. Like he has to be like very measured and calm and all that shit. So it worked really well, I think. It was he did a good job.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen the movie Saving Mr. Banks.
Mm-mm.
Oh, that's the name of the dad. I've always wondered why it was called that. I never
Me
pieced
too.
it together.
Oh, I just realized that too. Okay.
That's funny.
Saving him of all people, huh?
Yeah, I know, right? Not saving Mary Poppins. I guess that would have been too obvious. But so I mean, I kind of want to watch. I just never really wanted to watch that movie. Plus, it's made by Disney, so that they're telling it in their side of the story way. It wouldn't make sense for them to be like. And then Walt was a real asshole to her. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Then he slapped her around a little bit and said, "Dame, get out of
here! You're hysterical. Get out. This is my movie now." But she was very like not happy with the way the movie turned out. That she hated this movie. Like
she didn't even want him to do it.
Premiere. Yeah, it took forever. He started trying to get the rights in 1938.
When did the book come out?
34.
So only a few years after it came out. But was he actually trying to get the rights for it?
Yeah, his daughters really loved the book, and they were like, "You have to make this into a movie, Papa." So then he was really trying to get Travers to budge, and she just wouldn't for forever. She just didn't think he was the guy to do it. She got up and loudly told him at the premiere, "That animated sequence has got to go." And he said, "The ship has sailed, Pamela." Turned around and walked away.
Well, yeah, it's already done. It's already at the premiere.
Yeah.
It's definitely too late.
You're not changing shit now, but I guess he kind of neutered Mary Poppins a little bit too. I read a little, because again, I haven't read the book, but she thought he took out some of the harsher elements of her character. So it's like, oh, she's more of a freaking hard ass in the books.
Or
Just
like
give him a spoonful of
Annie
salt.
McPhee status or what?
Yeah, I don't know. I've never seen that one either. But yeah,
She's
that
more
one,
of a hard ass than Mary Poppins is.
That also was the casting of both the main parts. I mean, we said a bunch of people were possibilities. I guess P.L. Travers would have rather had one of them in there because she did not like Julie Andrews or Dick Van Dyke for their roles.
So what did she have to say about this movie? I mean, what say did she have in this movie?
I don't know. She also didn't want them to use original songs. She thought it would be better if they used period piece songs that were just like the stuff that was actually popular.
Well, that's not a good idea.
No, it's not at all.
So maybe she wasn't full of good ideas. Maybe she just had this one set of books that she was good at.
Well, talking about the Sherman Brothers, I will say that they took home Best Original Score and Best Song for their work in this movie. Chim Chim Cheree was the one that took home the Best Song Oscar. The other ones were Best Editing, Best Visual Effects, which I think they did really a crazy job on the visual effects. And then Julie Andrews got Best Actress. But, I mean, the whole them against the background thing, I mean, there's been some videos in recent years that show the process of it online, which is really cool because, like, with the green screen, they wouldn't have been able to have her wear the veil.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just all would have been like, you still would have seen blue behind it or whatever. They couldn't have gone in and edited that properly. So they used sodium vapor lights and had the background lit up with this specific type of light that emits a very specific wavelength that they can then put a prism in the camera that filters out that wavelength, basically. So it's just the actors against nothing in the background. Like, it's not like it's black or whatever. It's like it's just, there's nothing behind them. And so then that makes it easier for them to animate the background for. So that's how they're able to seamlessly put them. Because, I mean, their edges, like, on the characters and stuff are perfect. Like, you don't see anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
You just literally slap them onto the background that you drew. And the
That's
two
cool.
pieces are seamless. And I mean, it looks better than green screens and shit now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Why did she hate that so much? If you wanted this like wacky world with penguins and all this other crazy stuff, how do you expect them to do that if she didn't want them to animate it?
I wonder if that part wasn't in the book.
Maybe.
Because it is very like, I mean, that was the part, like, I remembered this movie being, in my head, this movie was like 50% animated and 50% live action. I didn't remember there being like the vast majority of the movie takes place just in London.
Mm-hmm.
So that scene is pretty much out of left field. Yeah, the story would have made more sense and flowed a little bit differently if they didn't do that big, huge, weird, magical thing. And it was just sort of like, oh, look, little pockets of magic pop up around the world, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And maybe it didn't even really happen. Maybe Mary Poppins wasn't lying. She's like, we didn't go into a painting. You fell down and hit your head. Also, Mary Poppins, just in terms of like the magic of this movie and when it pops in, Mary doesn't pop in until 23 minutes and 50 seconds into this film. That's when I clocked her, when she's like floating down and stuff. I was like, damn, that's part of the reason why I don't remember so much of this movie. It's like, I'm not sitting there watching 20 minutes of grown-ups talking.
Or singing about dumb things.
Yeah, singing about work. This is terrible. So yeah, they really, really take their time setting things up for this. Like, look, this dad goes to work. That's it. He's obsessed with work. He's a tyrant in the house. Like, look, that dad fucking goes to work. You better believe it.
But then the mom also isn't around either. Like, and they don't even really allude to that. Besides the fact that she's like, all right, I'm gonna go do women's suffrage stuff later.
That was added by the production too, because in the book there's like less of a reason for her to be a bad mom. And this, they were like, let's make her just like have this thing that she's doing. That's why she's never home and doesn't pay attention to the kids, because she's very involved with the women's suffrage movement. But yeah, I think also it was a modern tale when she wrote it. The book, I think it takes place in the 30s, so they set the setting back a bit, which is a weird choice. I don't really know why, just kind of arbitrarily to do that.
So she can have a cause, maybe, and not just be like a lazy.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was like, maybe it was for that, to like give her something to do. That seems like a lot of work to be like, we got to give the mom something to do. You're like, can't make her fucking like sell hats or something like that. She has to have overhaul the entire production and make it a period piece now.
Or it could have, I don't know, could have been like Great Depression kind of thing.
Yeah, or they could have said it in the future. That would have been cool. Like spaceship. She's like, I have to go fight aliens. Well, the only other thing I have actually about this movie, though, is that they use the
the profits from this movie to purchase land in Florida. So that way he can start working on Disney World.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so Disney World's pretty much a direct result of Mary Poppins having come out.
Dang. You're welcome, Orlando.
Well, we did our part by watching it.
Yep.
in the day. So that's part of this show that we don't talk about enough. If you're a new listener around here, we go back in time. That's what we fucking travel to the old times. Well, let's see. We gotta give this thing a rating, an adjudication. It's our final step in the movie watching process here on Wish We Were Then. So let's see. How many
carpet bags?
Okay, that's a good one. I was like, I don't want to go straight for spoonfuls of sugar. That seems obvious. So, out of 1,964 carpet bags, I will give Mary Poppins a flat 1,800 carpet bags.
That's pretty high.
As soon as it came out of my mouth, I was like, that's really high.
I'm going to go a flat 1,600 carpet bags.
Oh, it's much lower. I thought after what I did, you maybe like 1,700 or something. But
I don't know.
I think it's just like the classicness of the movie got to me. You know, like this is such a renowned film, and it really, they gave us Walt Disney World. So I don't know.
I think it was held in too high of a regard after watching it the second time. But more like plot holes in this than I want there to be. A lot of like fantasy stuff is like the animation and stuff was cool. I thought Julie Andrews did a good job. I think she has a good voice and like a lot. But I don't know. It just didn't hold up for me.
Well, see, the other movie that Julie Andrews was really, really hoping to get, actually, the reason why she like almost didn't sign on to do this one was because she really wanted to play Eliza Doolittle in My Fair Lady.
It's been so long since I've seen that movie too. I feel like it was a movie I used to watch all the time as a kid and then don't really have the desire to go back and watch it again.
Oh, it's one that's always been on my list. I've never seen it.
Oh, really? Yeah, I watched it not like a bunch, but we would watch it every so often when I was a kid.
Yeah, I really need to see more musicals. There were a couple other of musicals that I really wanted to see that did really well this year that were like really big. This was a big year for musicals. You had Unsinkable Molly Brown, which is she was a woman who was actually on the Titanic, and this is like a fictionalized version of her story.
Okay.
She was unsinkable because she didn't go down with the ship. And yeah, it's a musical version, which I just thought was interesting. It's like I think it's a comedy too. I just thought that seems like a really weird idea for a movie. I want to see this. I didn't end up watching that one. And then also another one that seemed really interesting, but I don't think I could find it streaming in time, was Robin and the Seven Hoods, which starred Frank Sinatra as Robbo, Dean Martin as John. It also had Sammy Davis Jr. and Bing Crosby. And then Peter Falk, the guy who plays Columbo, was in the movie also. So I was like, dang, that sounds like a really crazy cast to be in this movie and to not have ever heard of it or heard any of the songs from it or anything else. The soundtrack's not on Spotify, so I didn't really get to see anything about it, but it looked interesting. There were a couple of movies that had like the same actors in them, like Peter Sellers would have two of his like huge movies come out this year. You had Dr. Strangelove, a Stanley Kubrick movie about, it's a cautionary tale about nuclear war and stuff. And then Pink Panther came out in the United States this year. And it debuted in Italy in December, but this is when it actually showed up here.
A lot of the things like that happening in Italy this year.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Same kind of story happened with Fistful of Dollars.
Yeah, and I watched that this week.
Yeah, that came out in Italy this year. It didn't come out in the U.S. until 1967, so it took a long time to get here.
I think we talked about it then.
Yeah, I think so.
But I did not watch it. But I did watch it this year, and it was really cool.
This is the first one?
Yeah, this is the first one of the trilogy. But if you get over the kind of like shitty dub of sound and like certain characters and stuff, just like their voices don't really match up really well with the movie itself. If you get past that, it's a really good movie.
I feel like a lot of times they will have people, for some reason, they'll just have them speak English and then hire somebody to dub them after the fact. And I don't know, it's just a weird thing. It's like you could have chose who was going to do this,
Yeah.
Somebody else who would star in a couple movies this year, James Bond. Sean Connery we were talking about him a moment ago. The reason why he was so busy this year is because From Russia with Love came out in the U.S. and Goldfinger would also come out just all over. So
yeah,
you had two Bond movies hitting theaters. Those are my two favorite Bond movies, probably. I mean, that's kind of a cliche thing. I think everyone loves Goldfinger. That's kind of one of the most talked about ones. But From Russia with Love was like my favorite when I was a kid. I really, really loved James Bond when I was younger.
Yeah. I like James Bond too.
And Connery's the
I
best
tried
one.
to watch them, but they're hard to find these days. Unless you rent them, you can always rent movies, but I didn't
Yeah.
find them on streaming.
And somebody else who was in a bunch of movies this year was Elvis Presley. That Viva Las Vegas, is we talked about earlier, is a soundtrack song from the movie Viva Las Vegas. He also came out and did the soundtrack for a movie called Kissin' Cousins and Roustabout. So he had 3 movies this year. He was even busier than Sean Connery. I've never seen any of them or really heard of any. I mean, like maybe Viva Las Vegas I knew was a movie or something, but I don't know anything about it or anything, you know.
No, I've never seen it before either.
Another musician who would be in a movie. It's funny I said a musician. Paul McCartney. The whole band was in a movie.
Oh yeah.
Hard Day's Night. Have you seen that one?
I didn't watch it. I know we've talked about it before, and this was my opportunity to watch it, and I still didn't. And it's on Disney Plus. I just found out.
Oh, really?
I just saw it on there right now. Yeah.
Oh, dang. But yeah, they were freaking killing it. You know, obviously that's crazy. They did a movie. They had time to do a movie outside of doing all the other shit they were doing this year. Beatle Mania going all crazy.
Yeah, for sure. How much money were they making at the time to like fund their own movie? You know?
Yeah. They're on top of the world. This one's it is really funny, actually. They were really good, like, actors.
Oh, really?
It was not like they were amazing, but they're not bad at all. You're not like, oh, here's the Beatles, you know? Yeah. They're pretty funny in it. Ringo, I really liked a lot in the movie. He's my favorite Beatle now that I'm older. And the grandfather is, like, really funny, too. Like, they like have Ringo's grandpa with them the whole time. Like, that's like a big thrust of the movie is like they're like watching, they're babysitting Ringo's grandpa. There were a lot of I've mentioned before. I just like have become very infatuated with the idea of these beach party movies. I bring them up all the time on this show because like they're a weird thing that we don't talk about. No one really remembers. Like the only one that people ever talk about kind of is Gidget, but that's really not even really a beach party movie. Like as seriously as they got into them. Here's the list from this year. They had Surf Party, Muscle Beach Party, Bikini Beach, and Pajama Party. And Pajama Party did take place on the beach. Then also to just kind of like, they're like, this is getting stale. People were tired of this. We need to refresh the genre. They had the horror of Party Beach. So they had a scary version of it this year too.
It's like, just reminds me of like a Scooby-Doo episode or something.
Yeah, for sure. The horror movies of this year, there's only a couple of them, but I've seen 2 of them from watching Mystery Science Theater. That's always how I've seen a lot of these old horror movies. The Incredibly Strange Creatures Who Stopped Living and Became Mixed Up Zombies is the horribly long title of a film that I do remember seeing on MSD3K. And then Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, one of the more famous episodes. It's like a good Christmas one.
I've seen that one.
And then one I watched as a kid, this was unrelated to Mystery Science Theater, was At Midnight I'll Take Your Soul. I remember watching that like I don't know, like middle school or something.
It sounds scary.
Yeah, I was just sitting there like watching it. And then my mom came in and she was like, what are you watching? Because it's like, I think it's like from Spain or something like that. Like, it's a really weird movie. And I was like, oh, it's called At Midnight I'll Take Your Soul. She's like, turn that off. What are you watching that for? You're too young to be watching At Midnight I'll Take Your Soul.
She's like, I don't know what it is, but I don't like it.
Yeah. And then there were a couple, just a small handful of kids' movies. There was The Incredible Mr. Limpet, where Don Knotts turns into a fish. That's like half cartoon thing. Like, not like Mary Poppins. I think it just transfers into cartoon at a certain point.
Sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, I wanted to find that. It wasn't streaming anywhere. There was like there were some test shots done for Jim Carrey to like remake The Incredible Mr. Limpet, but it was at a time when like, you know, he was just doing all those terrible CGI movies. Like, where the CGI was terrible. You know, the Christmas Carol. It's funny when he plays Scrooge, you know, and they just put his face on everybody's thing and everything. So it's like from around that era, and it's like a pretty terrible looking test shot. They like did that shot, and they're like, "All right, we're not making Mr. Limpet, sorry." But that's pretty much it. Yeah, I didn't really have too many movies.
Yeah, there's not a bunch that are like have carried over through time.
One that I did really want to see that I was kind of bummed out I couldn't find it was Black Like Me. Have you heard of that? There's a book. It's a book where a guy goes into like the southern United States and paints himself black.
No.
which like really happened. Yeah, like this guy was like a journalist, and he wrote a book about his experience. And I guess this is the movie version of that.
Interesting.
And yeah,
Nobody knew that it was just a guy painting himself black. Everyone thought he was an actual black guy, or like, why would like the actual journalist? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I guess. I mean, yeah, I can't imagine that. Like the ability to convincingly make yourself black would have been easily accomplishable back then.
Yeah, or at all. Even now, it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, I guess a bunch of prosthetics and stuff.
I'm
But
looking
for
at
a
the
normal
pictures.
person to be like, I'm just gonna take some makeup and.
But I'm looking at the pictures of it. It's the guy from who plays Brooks in Shawshank Redemption. He was the guy who turns black in the movie. Turns black like it was cursed by a wizard or something. But this all reminds me of a show that came out on FX, I believe, when I was a kid. I wonder when this came out because I remember watching it when it was on TV, and I never heard about it again. And I've never heard anybody talk about it. But there was a show called Black White. Yeah, it was Black period White period. It came out in 2006, and so there's two families. It's a black family and a white family, and they both undergo like makeup and stuff to make them look like the other race. And then they basically just do a Black Like Me thing, but with the whole family. And and then they would go out together. Like the white guy would go out with the black guy when they were both black, or when they were both white, and they would discuss their findings and things like that. And yeah, I mean, it was an interesting concept. This just reminds me of that. So obviously, because it's the same thing, that's why it reminds me of it. But yeah, that's about it for the movies. I think I don't really have anything else that I need to jump into on those. I guess that leaves only one thing left to do for the year, and that's to sift through each of the items. Mark and I are going to get off pod for a few hours, and we sit there and we just go over each individual item. We decide how much we like it, and then we come back, and it'll be seamless to you. You won't even notice the difference. We go out, we deliberate, we figure out what are we going to save from the year 1964. Everything else disappears. So, I mean, are you saving It's a Small World? I am going to save the Munsters.
There was a good one.
I think a lot of the bands, there was a lot of music that started to come out, but none of this is like, I got to save the Rolling Stones first album. I'm like, let that shit go. That's fine. I like the Munsters. So if you save the Addams Family, we'll be set on scary TV shows. We never have to save another one of those again.
You know what I'm going to save? Under the Boardwalk by the Drifters.
It's a good song.
It's a great song. And it's like,
a cool one.
It's so classic. I don't want to see it go.
I honestly didn't even want to sit there and try to go over all this music because there was too many that I wouldn't have been able to get through, House of the Rising Sun.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot of really good stuff. Bread and Butter. I'm surprised you didn't save that one.
I found a song that I liked, and I'm sticking to it because there's a lot of things that I'm sure I would want to save.
Yeah, that's why. Well, that's why we just deliberated for the past several hours.
Yes,
that's all happened off pod. Like I said, you didn't hear it, but it got really nasty. Actually, I've never heard Mark use some of those words. All right. Well, that's about it for the year 1964. We're going to get out of here. We're going to jump back in our time machine, go back and take care of our present day obligations, and then head on into another year next week. Join us, won't you? Like and subscribe. I've never said that before, I don't think, so please do it. People are like, oh, wow, that's what we're supposed to be doing. Dang. Tell your friends. I think when we both think about 1964, we'll be thinking the same thing, that we wish we were then.